and welcome to The Big Story here on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. My name is Chika Ago. Let's get started with our conversation tonight. And former President Olusegun Obasanjo says democracy has not been working as a system of governance in Nigeria because it was forced on us. Not just Nigeria, but the continent as well. Former President Obasanjo stated this yesterday in his address at a high-level consultation on rethinking Western liberal democracy for Africa held in Abeokuta, the capital of Ogun State. The former president said Western style of democracy failed in Africa because it did not take into consideration the views of the majority of the people. Is this true? Could there be other reasons why democracy on the continent has failed? Can we conclusively say that democracy has failed on the continent? These are the conversations that we'll be having with our guests this evening. Chibuike Mahunike, who is the election lead at Center for Democracy and Development CDD, and Jide Ojo, who is a development consultant, author, and columnist with The Punch. Mr. Wahunike joins us now, but Mr. Ojo will join us much later on the conversation. So let's just get started with this right away. Good evening, Mr. Wahunike. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, good evening. I can hear you loud and clear.
It's a pleasure to have you on this evening. First of all, let's get started by getting your thoughts on what former President Olusegun Obasanjo said on democracy, that it is failing Nigerians and Africans. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, to an extent, I will really subscribe to that, to an extent. First of all, happy to be here. I'm happy to discuss this very important subject matter. Of course, the former president, a global figure, you can not take that away, who has been a military leader, also been a presidential, has been a president, under a democracy. So I've seen it all. And beyond that, that is his opinion. And that opinion speaks for majority, many people, including myself. We have to assess democracy in its own merit. Truth is, democracy offers the best choice so far. I mean, we don't have a better choice than democracy. It is said that the worst of democracy is still better than the best of military. So I think the best thing is that we are practicing a democracy. Yes, it offers the better choice, and we will continue to groom it until it gets to a level where both the led and the leaders will understand and appreciate what roles they have to play. But so far, I agree at least 80% to what the former president have said. You have to look at what is it democracy is all about. What are the features of it? To what extent have we attained the promises of democracy? I think what that is important for us. If you will have opportunity to discuss it, I'll tell you, first of all, we know that democracy is about the rule of law. It is about regular elections. It is about civil liberties, human rights, all of that. But what have we seen as Nigerians? What we see is anti-people and anti-democratic behaviors and policies. Democracy enables us to participate. Have we really participated unhindered? It guarantees us accountability. Have our leaders have they accounted, creditably? Have we even have opportunity to hold them to account? Democracy is a very tolerant system. To what extent is our democracy tolerable to those who are supposed to be benefiting from it? Transparency, equality, pluralism, all these things are still, still looks like new vocabularies for those who have been practicing democracy since 1999. I think to a lot of extent, it has not really served our interest better. But I attribute that to the actors rather than the, the system itself.
I'll come back to the actors in just a moment, because the former president also talks about election cases and the role that courtrooms have played. But let's talk to Mr. Jide Ojo, who joins us now. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, Mr. Ojo. We hear the former president speak about Western liberal democracy and how it was forced on us as a people. When you sort of think back to, when we as a people started to take democracy on as a way of life, did we have a choice? Could we have said we don't want this? And if we didn't want that, what other options were right in front of us at the time?
Thank you very much, Chika. But in my own estimation, Obasanjo is just a Confucianist. I don't understand why Baba at over 80 is trying to upset the apple cart. The truth is, should we go back to monarchy? Because that's what we were practicing before the colonialists came. We have empires. We have almighty kings. We are talking about Kanem Borno Empire. We have Oyo Empire. We have several Songhai Empire. And who are the heirs of these empires? They are, monarchies. They are emperors. So if that is what Chief Obasanjo prefers to an organized system of electoral democracy, then he should say, because he said he doesn't have the answer, but he's postulating after he served as the longest president in the history of Nigeria. It was 3 years, a military head of state. He was the one that midwifed the presidential system of government. He could have changed it at that time. He was younger. He was more cosmopolitan at that time. Why did he not change? The only thing he changed was from parliamentary to presidential system. And the military didn't even allow us to enjoy the presidential system, because they keep striking, so much so that out of 63 years of independence, they were at the ends of affair for 29 years cumulatively. I said in my column in The Punch last week, trying to trace the historical antecedent of electoral democracy in Nigeria. And I said, look, the first election was held in Nigeria in 1920. And if you talk of general elections, it was in 1923, September 20, 1923. That makes 100 years of electoral democracy. But what did the colonialists bequeath to Africa and Nigeria? Okay, let's discount the period between 1923 and 1960. When the political actors took charge in 1960, did they behave any better than the colonialists? Their misbehavior is what caused us the military adventurism in 1966. And also in 1983, also in 1985 or whatever. Now, my own position is this. I listened to Chibike's comment. See, don't blame the system of government, blame the actors. It is not in the system. Okay, we were having monarchies. They say monarchy is too dictatorial, is anti-democracy. But it is the same monarchy that Saudi Arabia is running, that Jordan is running, that Morocco is running the same monarchy. But you will say it is not democratic. But we have our own monarchies, and we have our own system of government. When the colonialists came about 200 years ago, when they came to Africa, they met a system of administration. But was it democratic? Was there anything called civil liberties at that time? When one man can dictate whether you live or you die, when one man is unquestionable, is next to God. I mean, we have done well. Yes, we may not have been where we ought to be in terms of our democratic culture, in terms of democracy delivering dividends of dividends or bringing about good governance. But don't blame the system. The British that have perfected their parliamentary system are enjoying it. The Americans that brought about the presidential system of government are also likewise enjoying it, and they have exported it to many African countries. The Liberian election that just concluded, where Judge Oponwea considered defeat, was it not presidential system of government that they are practicing? And Ghana, is it not the same presidential system of government that Ghana is practicing? The point is that our actors, the political actors, they are not in my backyard attitude. They are behaving like emperors of old. They are behaving like teen gods. They are having their way all the time. It's either my way or highway. That is the problem.
Right.
If the political actors behave themselves, irrespective of the system of government, it will deliver the goods to the people of that community.
Right. Let me speak to let me speak to other panelists on this conversation, Mr. Mbahunike, because he says something that I want to come back to. He said something that I wanted to come back to. That was also something that former President Olusegun Obasanjo, spoke of, right? Judges overturning decisions made by millions of voters. And, Mr. Ojo, you also said something similar. Don't blame the system, blame the actors in the system. Mr. Mbahunike, I want to ask you, how do you think of the role that our courts have played in shaping our democracy, our elections? How do you assess the role that they've played so far?
Well, for me, it's been a mixed grill. I don't know how to put it in percentage, but I know that there's this thing called messianic complex. When the judiciary do well, we hold them in very high esteem. When they performed, in our own estimation, maybe below expectation, we tend to criticize them. That is natural. It is normal. But for somebody like me who have been in the system for a while, Mr. Joe is somebody who has seen it all. For instance, when you do analysis of the situation, you, as a Nigerian, there's a tendency of bringing some measure of patriotism to it, because we are also victims as well as beneficiaries. You understand? If democracy works well for us, we are beneficiaries. If it works badly, we are victims. The judiciary, all I expect from the judiciary is people who will look. I know that before they determine their cases, they make use of things before them, evidences before them. They say they don't give what you don't ask for. But I know it's beyond that. They also look at general expectation, the pulse of the nation, and all of that. You see, if you want to know who wins a particular election, it's very easy, irrespective of evidences before you. And I tell you, that comes to play most often. I know that for sure. The truth is, if we have people who are patriotic in that arm of government, they will consider Nigeria, the nation, they will consider our democracy, they will consider the helpless population. Because for me,
let me, sorry to interrupt. Let me come in here with a question for you, right? Because former President Olusegun Obasanjo said, he described, some of the judges we've seen as cathedral judgments, right? Saying that 3 to 5 judges should not overturn decisions made by millions of voters during the election. How do we look at what the president is saying, right? Is it such a simplistic description of a course correction that is necessary, given the way that the actors themselves have participated in that election, or maybe the way that the electoral umpire INEC has, or the shortcomings of the electoral umpire INEC in conducting an election that these political actors have then taken advantage of? How do we put what the judges have done here, side by side with the will of the people, and then the obvious systematic defaults?
Okay, so the judges in question are Nigerians. They also see and experience these same actors. For instance, if the judiciary, I'm sure they must be frustrated, so to speak, because I know that to fix our electoral democracy, the electoral empire plays a very fundamental role. And the expectation for an electoral empire is to also do the right thing. For me, if over and again you refuse to do the right thing, the tendency is for the judiciary to begin to think that there's no point leaving it to the choices of the electoral empire. They then do a summary judgment and say, oh, this one lost, this one won, rather than saying, engage in another round, which will still require the people to determine that. And but in our own case, we explain it away, oh, it costs resources. It costs us our dear resources. And we are expending the resources on, how much we voted for INEC this period that they cannot account for. And we don't have anything to show for it. From 2023 general election, we are here I was expecting that the off-cycle election will make a lot of meaning. I mean, so that we begin to, give it to INEC. But if you ask me, my evaluation of the off-cycle election is from bad to worse, from fry pan to fire. That is what I think. And the judiciary are watching. So if it is left for the judiciary to determine any situation, they will do summary determination and they will give it to either A or B, and leaving out the people in the equation. And that is why it has become strange. You can no longer analyze our democratic situation. We seem to be helpless. We seem to be helpless. We don't know what else to do. We cannot continue to wait indefinitely until we get the right person to know that the electoral empire is supposed to be the right thing, the judiciary is supposed to do the right thing. They are made up of human beings like us. Civil society have been the one in the forefront. I mean, even in the trenches, can they feel that at some point, can we begin to do the will of the country, Nigerians?
Right.
It's frustrating.
Right, Mr. Ojo, just coming back to you and keeping up with your train of thought from earlier, you made mention of several countries around the world that are seemingly doing well, even though they don't have a democratic system of governance. Here in Africa, people often point to, Rwanda, and they say, well, look, it's a country doing well under a leader that is often described as a benevolent dictator, right? If we see, and if we see a former president, right, of the country, a two-time democratic president, who's also been a military leader, if we see him say, look, democracy is failing us on the continent, is there, is that an argument in favor of going to say, well, maybe we'll probably need benevolent dictatorship? I mean, look, it's working in some of these countries around the world. Is that even a consideration, anything that Nigerians should even, pay attention to at this time?
I really don't know why we are glamorizing the opinion of Obasanjo in all of this, because this is a man that has opportunity to practice what he's preaching, but who failed to do so. I don't know about benevolent dictatorship. It's an oxymoron, and I think we should just say, even under Paul Kagame, yes, there was element. I mean, there is a saying that a dose of autocracy is the cure for liberty misuse, and we have that also in Nigeria, where some of our leaders, gag the press and try to run their own show on their own terms, and also denying us accountability. The reason why people are using Paul Kagame as a model leader, and I do hope that when he leaves office, eventually, if he does, he's been there 25 years, he's been tinkering with the constitution to keep himself in power. But you should also know that there is an history behind Paul Kagame. First election in Rwanda is every 5 years. And the people of Rwanda possibly want to keep Kagame because he's been able to keep the rebel forces at bay, given the fact that they have history of conflict. From the 1994 genocide, the rebels are still threatening, breathing down the neck of Rwanda. But because Paul Kagame comes from the military background, he's been able to keep them in check. But you see, that still does not mean we should glorify him. It's like when people are talking of, Lee Kuan Yew and saying, "Oh, Lee Kuan Yew turned around Singapore." The whole notion of democracy is about civil liberties. That's what distinguishes a military regime from a civilian administration. It's civil liberties. I mean, the best of infrastructures we have today were mostly built by the military. The Third Mainland Bridge, many of the infrastructure we glorify today were hallmarks of the military regime. So when you talk brick and mortar infrastructure, yes, give it to the military, because they don't have a circumlocutor's way of tendering board and taking long years to arrive at a decision. So they can decide that we are starting this road construction next week, and they look for the money and they start. But in a democracy, it has to be, you have to send the appropriation bill to the legislature. They can kill it in view, they can keep it in view. It takes a bit of time. But what we are saying is that I still blame the operators, the actors. It's not the system that you run. Like I said, I mean, Rwanda is not a monarchy. Yes, the man has he has an history of not tolerating opposition and gagging the press and all of that. But again, they have an history to that because of the 1994 genocide, where they lost millions of people. But in Nigeria, if only the operators of the system will behave themselves, I keep saying this, attitude is what is lacking. Our attitude to governance. In my column in The Punch today, I engage the issue of fiscal recklessness of our political leaders. And you cannot just explain this thing to me and it will make sense. How we vote billions of naira that is scarce, that we are borrowing to service very harmful individuals who live large at our expense. I take exception to that. That is not what democracy dictates. Democracy should be about call to service. And when people claim that they are serving you, but they are living large at your expense, they are losing their own belt while they are asking you and I to tighten our own belt. I have problem with that. So it's about the operators. The system that delivered good governance in other clients is what is not making sense to us here because of operators like Obasanjo himself. Because he has opportunity to turn things around. For 8 years, I mean, cumulatively 11 years, he was #1 citizens of this country. So at what point did he have all this brainwave and start putting out this idea that he said he does not himself have answers to? I don't think we should allow elder statesmen like that to confuse us. If they don't know what the solution is, I will tell them the solution is in the attitude of the operators of our system. If everybody would behave well, whether the judicial officers or the electoral officers or the legislative officers or the people in government entrusted with one task or responsibility or the other, if everybody would be upright and live to the principles of their religious convictions, religious convictions, rather than just being hypocritical and sanctimonious. The same people who rig election will go to church and do thanksgiving. The same people who order people to be murdered because they want to acquire power will go to Jumat on Friday and be praising Allah as if Allah endorses their evil ways. So who let everybody change their ways? It's the operators of the system. Look, all these things that we are clamoring. Did you know that India was also former colony of United Kingdom? India has a prime minister's parliamentary system of government, but it's working for India. It's working for them. Even China has an election, periodic election, where they elect their leaders. So Russia has their own electoral system. So if democracy is not just about routine election. Democracy is about behaving true to the dictates of the rule of law, true to the due process, following due process in doing everything. These are elementary things you and I learned in our government classes in secondary schools. And for those of us who studied political science, we were further taught at degree and postgraduate levels. So for me, I have examined all of these things. It comes to the same issue of attitude. Somebody gets to power today. is looking for how to acquire half of his community land because he wants to dominate. He wants to show off. He wants to live luxurious lifestyle. Nobody is interested in call to serve. Everybody is engaging in rat race for personal aggrandizement. So if it takes them to undermine the electoral system and compromise the judges of the courts to endorse their electoral aids, they will do it. And they offer irresistible sums of money. Money you cannot resist. Unfortunately, we have a system of government that does not provide whistleblower protection. So if you resist, they can send assassin after you. They can eliminate you if they know that you are the one that want to serve as a cog in the wheel of their primitive accumulation of wealth. So let's examine ourselves. There is no amount of reforms we do. Professor Wole Soyinka in the 80s, he released an album. That's when I know he's a musician. The only album he released with this man who is now based in UK, Tunji Oyelano, he was talking of ethical revolution. What is ethical revolution? Ethical revolution is revolutionizing our attitude, behaving well, following due process, and it starts from family down to government level. So once we fix all of that, government will change for better.
Right. Mr. Mahunike, so as we begin to wrap up this conversation here, clearly, there's still the democracy remains the answer, right? Just listening to you, listening to Mr. Ojo, democracy remains the answer for us as a people, and I'm happy that we can, that we've reached that conclusion. And so going forward, right? What in your thoughts are some of the most immediate things that the Nigerian people should know? So I want you to speak to what we should do, what the Nigerian people should do, and then Mr. Ojo, when it's your turn, I want you to speak to what immediate step our democratic institutions should take. Again, because clearly the politicians are the bad faith actors here, and we need to kick them out. So what should the people do, Mr. Mahunike and Mr. Ojo? What should our institutions do to get us, to a better place with a democratic situation?
The truth is that we know what we are supposed to do. Unfortunately, the Nigerian people have been made so docile that they have decided to relapse. They have all retreated. I mean, the political class seem to have ganged up against the generality of the people, and they have had their way. They seem that people can no longer respond in any particular manner. They use poverty as a tool. They deploy all sorts of, they deploy all sorts of strategies to make sure they push the Nigerian people, in a way that they can no longer respond. And the only language they seem to understand is mass action. You see, the issue is, since they cannot allow us to vote our choices, it is unfortunate that the Nigerian people cannot, they cannot resort to violence. The truth is that democracy offers us the choice of regular election where we choose our leaders. Unfortunately, they have, disrupted that whole arrangement, that we can no longer vote our choices. So we know what we want, but the political class have not allowed us to express our choices. And I believe it, your guess is as good as mine, what may likely happen in the nearest future. We don't know, but the truth is that nothing is working fine. Cost of living is high. Democracy did not promise us what we are going through this time around. Like Jido rightly mentioned, it is the actor. You are not going to go outside the shores of this country to look for people to govern you. It also comes from the people, from the society. The Nigerian people, the followers, they also have a duty to respond like, responsible followers, responsible citizens, making demands on the ruling class. But if you are not sure you elected one governing you, can you really make a demand on such a character? That is the confusion we are faced with as a people. So we know what we want. It is hard to go about it, but it's the problem. And my fear is, let us not respond, let us not be left to our own choices of going violent. And that is not what democracy promises us.
Mr. Ojo, your turn, as brief as possible.
So for me, we need to break the chain of impunity. The culture of impunity that have been instituted across board, whether in election, whether in governance, that culture of impunity is what we need to break to reset our brains and to make us to be better citizens. Because you see, in other climes that we envy, where many of us are jackpying to, apologies for my choice of words, where many of us are running to, it's because there is discipline in that system. It's because that system does not tolerate impunity. That system does not reward bad behavior. If we be you a president, we've seen Mayor of Jerusalem, former Prime Minister of Israel, being sentenced to jail. We've seen Franco Mitterrand, former president of France, being sent to jail for breaching campaign finance regulations. Can we have similar things? We have governors who breach their code of office, who have their hands in the cookie jar. It took almost 10 years to get them convicted, but the same political class released them on a very subtle or whatever reason I do not want to advance. 2 governors who are serving jail terms were released under Buhari administration. How do you now correct the bad behaviors of those who want to emulate such people? So until when we break that culture of impunity, where I know that if I commit a crime, I may not get away with it.
Right.
That's when we'll start behaving ourselves, whether in election or in governance.
Well, let's hope that comes sooner than later. I want to say thank you very much, gentlemen, for your thoughts this evening on the big story. We appreciate your insights and your perspectives. Thank you very much. And I hope this conversation takes us a little step closer to the country that we're trying to build.
Hopefully.
Thank you. We've been speaking with Jide Ojo, development consultant and author, columnist with The Punch and public affairs analyst, and Chiwike Mbahunike. He is election lead, Center for Democracy and Development. It's your turn, right? I want to hear from you. What do you think is the most important step that we have to take right now as a people to make sure that democracy works for us? I'm not even going to ask you whether democracy has failed or not, or whether, democracy is the best thing for us to do. No, it is what we have to do. I like having a voice. I like saying, I don't want this person to be my leader. I like saying, this is what we should do as a community. I like having a voice. And so the question I'm asking us this evening is, what should we do to ensure that we all have a voice and that we all protect that voice? It's about speaking for everybody now. That's at the roundtable. Stay with us. This is Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos.
We are Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos.
Please, officer, now. I know to make money today. I beg now. Hey!
Laolu! Today is the day you are going to pay for all your sins.
Something exciting out of the stables of Sanitary Pad Media Campaign.
Not like me. I know well, since yesterday. My stomach, I dey pain now. I no sleep.
Yeah. A radio drama soap, My Period, My Pride.
This woman, come on for road. You know they look your back. Come on for road, this woman, huh? Come on for road.
My Period, My Pride, an advocacy tool for the provision of free sanitary pads for schoolgirls in Nigeria, powered by Sanitary Pad Media Campaign with support from MacArthur Foundation and Radio Now 95.3 FM.
My Period, My Pride, Season 1, The Story of Ife.
Every Saturday at 10 a.m.
To Financial Services Regulation and Coordinating Committee FSRCC tinyere National Broadcasting Commission NBC Johera Adohu Boda Kanante banyere ndị na-atụ mgbere ego iwu akwadoghị bụ Illegal Financial Operators IFO nke na-eme ka ndị mmadụ ghara inwekwa ntụkwasị obi ọzọ tinyere na ngalaba na-ahụ maka ego na Nigeria enweghị nkwudosi ike ha jizi ohere agwa ndị ọha obodo ka ha kwụsị ịtụnyere ndị na-atụ mgbere ego enweghị akwụkwọ ikike inwekwara ike ime nchọpụta banyere akwụkwọ ikike ụlọ ọrụ dị otu a site n'akara webụsaịtị ndị a www.cbn.gov pencom.gov.ng, www.nicom.gov.ng, www.pencom.gov.ng, www.sec.gov.ng. Makinye pesa banyere gburugburu ego n'ụdị ọbụla kpọọ 07002255226, 08002255226 maọbụ +234-817-665-6273. Ozi a si n'aka FSRCC.
The issues are all around us, but who talks about them? Law enforcement breaking the law, property owners ripping off tenants, political office holders taking the electorate for granted, or is it the plague of recurring bad policies made by the government? These are the issues. Let's talk about these and more at the Round Table. Stay locked on to Radio Now 95.3 FM every weekday as we discuss these hot topics around us on The Round Table on Now Express. The Round Table, weekdays, 5:30 p.m.
Good evening. My phone lines are available right now. Let's get to it. 0913 5000 953 and 0901 1111 953. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo has given his reason for why he thinks democracy is not working in Nigeria, which is interesting because he was a two-term president. In fact, wanted to make add a third term to it. But in your opinion, what should we do to make it work? Good evening. What's your name?
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Fine. Itzim.
Itzim, welcome. Happy to have you here, Itzim. Please go on.
Obasanjo.
Itzim, please, do you have another line?
You mentioned
Itzim, I'm struggling to make out what you're saying, please. If you've got another line to call me, that would be great. Good evening. What's your name?
Chikasin.
Hi, Kenny.
My only brother. And
I'm all right, Kenny. Please go on. How can we make democracy work for us?
Brother, you know me now. I always go straight to the point. Democracy cannot work in Nigeria. Why? Because when we go outside the world, or outside the country, we see the type they practice there. You can imagine where our senators, they enter bus and take standing. If there is no seat, you take standing with other people, equal in the eyes of every other person. You see them, they conform. No surrender, nothing over there. You see them very loyal. In fact, no bodyguard, nothing follow them. But when they come to Nigeria, they become emperor. That is not democracy. You understand me?
So I hear you when you say, I understand you when you say this, and I 100% agree with you, no notes whatsoever. But to say that democracy cannot work in Nigeria is where I disagree with you, because
why it cannot work?
Because we are here today, we're having this conversation on radio, right? We can say, that look, the governor of Lagos State has not spent the monies that, taxpayers have paid to the government judiciously. And everybody will have a job tomorrow. Everybody will have a life tomorrow. Because again, under a democracy, everybody has a voice. And so I'm saying that no matter how bad you think it is right now, Kenny, it can get worse. To avoid going from bad to worse, but from good to better, what are the things that we must do? What is that immediate action that you reckon we should take?
Very much. Thank you very much. You see, my brother, I always like to be straightforward. What I'm trying to let you know is that the state has been captured. The state has been captured and it has been strangulated. You can imagine where you want to protest for something that is not going well. The same security agents to go and disperse and destroy everybody. It does not make sense. So where are we going to start from? At the time before the election, we tried to review some things. Okay, this is what we want. This is how something is supposed to go. The umpires, they did another thing. You saw the election results. So where are we going to make the change? When the people at the helm of affairs, they are nominating their cronies, their family members, their party members to go and beat the election. Because democracy starts from election.
All right, Kenny.
Democracy starts from election. So if the elections are not okay, I don't think there can be a healthy democracy.
All right, Kenny, thank you. Everybody gets a minute so that we can get across as many people as possible. Good evening, welcome.
How are you, Chika?
Ambassador Musbah, good evening.
This is Kerry Scorpion. Stop laughing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go on.
So me, some people don't understand what democracy is. Sure, stamina. Supposing you understand what democracy is, you know that there's no new alternative for democracy. Look, I'm not sincere with you. In America, we copy this presidential system from America, and they are over 200 years. Go and check American House at where they are still 100, 150. It worse than Nigeria. Yes, go and check it out. It worse. They start getting it right, but when Nigeria are waking up, Nigeria has good money, a good economy in the 60s, 70s. Go and check American House in the 60s and 70s. I have a brother there. We send money to him from Nigeria here. So, stamina. Even in the UK, Nigeria will spend money. Nigerian dollar is not to 80 kobo, 70 kobo. So, stamina. But when Nigerians become not accountable, we are not accountability, and Nigeria will allow. Look, we need strong institution, not strong men. Until you and I find our rhythm, have to put on check. So this our leader. The House of Assembly member is from your community. The senator is my community. What are we doing? So it's so funny that we only complain. We use our mouth instead of use everything in us to put a check. It's so difficult at times, but at the same time, a journey of 1,000 miles begin with a stop. Let us try and say that I'm a senator. We are going to record you, but what you see in get return, like my brother now, waiting for anything for us, anything for us. Let's stop all this anything for us, and the system to check them. As a chairman local government, you have 2 cars. Before you get in there, suddenly you have 10 cars, 20 cars. We don't have questions. So, stamina. So, me and you can make a change. This is what happened in Lagos State now. Let's put pressure on them. The risks have been out. They are start defending themselves now. This is a democracy. Sure, stamina. You cannot check any government more than that. Let us criticize them and comment them when necessary. But at the same time, we need to put them on their toes. If you can find our rhythm as a Nigeria, Nigeria will be better. That's my take.
Well noted, Ambassador Musbah. Well noted. And I think that it's very important that we focus on some of the immediate things that we can address as opposed to, talking about all the ills. Because I guess it's not news, right? Everybody, and if we decide, let's talk about what the problems of Nigeria are, we'll go sleep here, right? And the truth is, many of the solutions to the problems that we have are not far-fetched. Right? They're not far-fetched. Sometimes it's a question of, who's going to build the carts, really? I want to get your thoughts on this. 0913-5000-953. It's him. If you can please call me back, because earlier on the line was really poor, and so I had to take you off the air. If you can find a better position or use a different line to call, that would be great. Good evening. Hello? It's him. All right. Thanks for calling back. It's him. Go on.
Okay. For democracy to work in Nigeria.
Hello. Oh, okay. It's him. I think that network is not letting. It's not letting us have this conversation. And it's frustrating. Good evening. Welcome to the roundtable. Can you turn down the volume and the radio in the background? Thank you.
Chika, how are you? This is Obi calling from Ikeja.
Obi, welcome. Obi, carry on.
Chika, how are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you, my brother?
I'm okay. Chika, sincerely speaking, I sympathize with you. I feel for you. I'm telling you, sometimes when I'm sleeping, I think I say this man loves this nation. Chika, Nigeria, I'm a very short man, but today I'm very tall. I'm 6 something now due to hunger. Hunger don't make me I'm tall. We are not until we pay us. and we'll start doing things right. This thing you're talking about democracy. Is this how to practice democracy? My brother, you say your time, because the same people that are supposed to fight our common enemies who are politicians, they are the ones defending them. So, my brother, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing you can do. What I keep praying, let me have something on the table for myself and for my children. Any other thing, it does not concern me.
You know what? I want to say something before you hang up, Obi. Whatever you have on the table for your children for tomorrow, right? It's largely dependent on how well this country fares. And I'll give you an instance, right?
Okay.
There are people who bought shares for one company many years ago.
I agree with you.
And 10 years down the line, people bought these shares. My father bought a share. Hold on, my father bought a share in one of these media companies too. And we saw the whatever it was, the dividends, a couple of years ago, and look, it was a waste of time, really, right? And it's the same for many people, right? So if we don't get it right, you can think of all the industries that have left Nigeria. Just this year, GSK left Nigeria, right? You think of all the companies that are leaving Nigeria. If everybody is leaving, what are you leaving for?
My brother, don't be angry. I feel for you. How can we be looking for investors when our country is not in order? Insecurity, no light, no. You see, I'm confused about this nation. Look at what happened in Kano. Look at what happened. The confusion everywhere. Confusion to the extent of judiciary making mistake. I don't understand. How long can you go? You see, if there is hope that you are doing something, at least one step is okay, the other step, there's hope. Nobody's against anybody. Everybody has to be okay. Sincerely speaking, we don't have another country apart from Nigeria now. But when you try your best, and nothing is working. So will you people, if you want me to have blood pressure? No, we cannot work now. We cannot. Because there will be a time now when you're eating, somebody will come and carry your food. We're getting to that place now. Then your head, all of us, our head will straight. We're not learned our lessons yet, because we still have our family members overseas that are sending dollars and pounds. We don't know. When they stop sending and when things get tougher, then we'll start thinking. Then Igbo man, Hausa man, FPK, Fulani will be united in one resolve to be fighting this monster called Nigerian politicians. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It would appear that everyone seems to think that the present crop of Nigerian politicians are the cause of the problems that we have today. And you can argue that it's not the system, it's the actors. Okay, so how then do we flush them out? Good evening.
Good evening, Peter.
Hi, is this Ibeto?
No, this is Emmanuel.
Emmanuel, can you speak up a little louder?
Okay.
Thank
you. Can you hear me better?
This is a lot better, thank you. It's always Ibeto with the low volume whenever he calls.
Okay. Yeah, Tika, our case, you don't pass, be careful. We can put them like that. As we are now, we are a nation that is looking for help. When I like what Ambassador was saying earlier on, I will paint a better picture because I experienced the 80s when a dollar was selling for 70 kobo. When people, the same crop of people that are in power now, were students and they were getting student bursary and they were using their student bursary to go to London. Then Nigeria was visa free to London and they were having a good time. For those of us that were children in the 80s, we were enjoying, even though then they were telling us that we were suffering. In the 80s, I stayed in the U.S. My dad was in the foreign affairs, then external affairs. So I had the opportunity of visiting, living in different countries. And I know how they used to look at us as Nigerians. Now, it's not like that. Now, we are like a pariah nation. The only way we can come out of it is for everybody to be sincere with themselves. And we leave all forms of religious bigotry, tribalism, and focus on what is right. Look, right now, I remember, I stay around the Onikon and environment. And we must say that is not, it's kind of like a highbrow area. So it's not the Ikoyi of Victoria Island. But when the campaigns were going on, I told them, I said, you better look well and you vote well. And, well, they did not. Now, the same people that voted for a particular party, let me not call the party, are the ones complaining about the party. And you know what I told them? I said, in 3.5 years' time, they are coming again, and they're going to still sell the same meal to you, and you're going to buy it because you don't have sense. But when you begin to have sense, you tell them, how do we arrive at this and that? Let me not talk too much, but you get what I mean. Have a wonderful day, Chika.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel, for Monicon. It's a pleasure having you on the program. 0913-500953. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo is saying that democracy isn't working for us in the country, right? And he would know. Former two-time leader. In fact, it was because we had a democratic system in place that resisted him and his third-term bid. And that was why we had him, as a two-term president. So, in many ways, it's kind of like it's an irony that he would say that, right? But even then, what's the fix? How can we make it better? Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Welcome. What's your name, please? Josh.
Yes, calling from Ikeja.
Josh, good evening. Please carry on.
Yeah, good evening. Okay. So I've listened to some of the people that spoke earlier on, and of course, your guests in the studio. But I would say, and I keep saying this, that Nigeria is very easy to fix. It's one of the easiest countries you can fix. Because for the fact that
where were you when Buhari was president? Did you not hear him say Nigeria is not an easy country to lead?
No. See, fixing Nigeria is about sincerity of purpose. See, forget all those lip service. I have integrity. I have this one. All those are rubbish. We all know. Everything was just used to win election. You understand? We just used to win election. So the point I'm trying to make here now is that to fix Nigeria, you have to come as someone with the real integrity. Now, you will not be, you will have to have conquered greed. Number two. Number three, your character has to have been tested. Now, the thing is this, when Nigerians go outside the country, I did my master's in the UK, and I saw it firsthand. When Nigerians go outside the country, even the same people I used to know here in Nigeria that were, rugged and all that kind of stuff, when they go outside the country and they see how everything is working, they respect themselves. They don't drive anyhow. They stick to the speed limits and all that. So what does it take for Nigeria to be better? Now, when you strengthen the institutions, this is not a matter of, I listen to people say something like, everybody has to be better, everybody has to be good. See, let me tell you, in UK, there's a part of, there's a place in London, what's they call this area? So there are so many places in London where the blacks and Jamaicans live. You go there, you do anyhow, you see anyhow. Those guys are rugged. You don't even see such stuff here. You understand? You go there, people use all manner of dagger, knife, and all that on you, in broad daylight. So they have a lot of bodies. This case is for these rugged people and all that. Those things still happen. But the point is that the day you err on the side of the law, you understand, you will definitely face. So the point is, the point I'm trying to make here now is that the day whoever is leading us, this is not a matter of everybody should change. No way. There's no way everybody can change. So let's stop taking some facts. The politicians always will put it up and tell you until all of us change, adjust our character, this and that one, stop playing lip service, stop this. That is rubbish. Go to US, go to UK, go everywhere. You will still see bad people. So what is the difference is the institutions. So who will set up the institutions? Our leaders. But our leaders have refused to set up the institutions. Well, they are blaming us. We that we don't have the power, let's stop playing politics about this whole thing. The easiest way, the easiest country to fix, I keep saying it, is Nigeria. Now, you have a party that is in power now. A party that is in power now. And they came in through whatever guides and all that kind of stuff. How do you expect them to fix the country? They can't. You understand? They'll just be going all around in circles, propaganda here and there and all that. They cannot tell you the state of things, how things are going and all that kind of stuff. They cannot fix anything. You understand? But when you come in, like, okay, fine, election is not a do or die stuff. You know, let me run election. Let me not kill anybody. Let me do stuff. And when you get in there, you're going to walk. And anybody that comes near you, anybody that does anything bad, they're going to cross the person. Because you have the mindset to do that. You have the will to do that. You understand? And all these things that we'll keep doing all this, patronizing with our friends, telling them this or that, when I get into power, everything will be okay for everybody. So that's not it.
All right.
You understand? That's not it.
Josh.
So I'll keep saying it. Nigeria is the easiest, and the reason why Nigeria is the easiest to fix is because, number one, we suffer in silence. Suffer. You can't do this in UK. You can't do this in US.
Josh, thank you very much for your thoughts. Good evening. Hello, good evening.
Chika.
Ambassador Musbah.
What I just said before. When you talk about President Olusegun, former president, he's not a Democrat. He just benefits from democracy. He's not a Democrat. Let's go back and see what happened in 1979. The person that we have those who won the election, he turned the elections over. Let me leave that.
Why would you say? Why would you say that former President Olusegun Obasanjo is not a Democrat?
He's a military. Can we say military? Even though former President Buhari is not a Democrat, he's just trying to because they don't like. Look.
Are you saying that he's not a? Hold on, Ambassador Musbah. Let me ask you something. Are you saying he's not a Democrat because he has military background, or are you saying that he's not a Democrat because he never subscribed to the tenets of democracy? What exactly is your reason for saying that?
He never subscribed to it. Go look. The time has gone. Maybe tomorrow we're going to discuss this. Let me leave that one. So the problem we are facing in Nigeria, Chika.
Yes.
Chika, let us have the truth. If you believe in God, make sure, do as God is watching you. Look at Moses is watching you now. Let us tell the truth. Chika, if I you as a senator today, and Chika, as you are my brother, and your sibling, can we tell you the truth? All we do is that, Chika, this is your time. I beg you, this is your time. Remember, I found your secondary school. Remember what I did to you sometimes ago? This is what I tell you. I might say, Chika, come here. If you don't represent us, they'll go record you. How many years can say that? We need to tell the truth. Nobody can do that, Chika. And so that's the problem we are facing.
Right.
How you say that, Chika, December is coming, Chika. December is coming, Mama Proto. This is what we're telling you. We'll tell you, I said, you are not ready, you are ready, Chika.
Ambassador Musbah, thank you very much.
Kenny. My brother.
Kenny, give me 1 minute, please.
By what's it called? Our legislation, let it be one. One. You understand? Then let it be a part-time job. Because these people, they are making law, when they make a law, and the law will some assault on top of each other. They contradict the law, they have another thing in mind. Judiciary will tell them, this is not what we people meant. This is what you meant. So, let it be one. The job should be part-time. The judiciary, they should reform the judiciary. You understand? Reform it well. In fact, reform it to the point that when they make law, a layman will understand what the law is. You don't need interpreter. Let them use simple English. That and I will know the meaning of and. Not and in the classroom with difference from and in judiciary.
If that's the one you're asking for, Kenny, you know, go work. I have to take the news now. You have to go to school. No, they can't simplify the laws any more than they already are. I like to think that they are simplified as can possibly be. But Kenny, thank you very much for being a part of the show this evening. I'm back tomorrow from 2 p.m. here on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. So join me then. The news at 6 is up next. My name is Chika Ago.
Across Nigeria, Africa, and the world, this is Radio Now News.
Thanks for staying with us. This is the news at 6 here on Radio Now 95.3 FM. Vice President Kashim Shettima has restated the commitments of the President Bola Tinubu administration to the welfare of the Nigerian armed forces, including families of fallen heroes. He said the administration's resolve was an acknowledgement of the sacrifices of service personnel to the unity and sustenance of global peace. The Vice President stated this yesterday evening, shortly after he was decorated with the emblem of the 2024 Armed Forces Remembrance Day at the Presidential Villa, where he records the heroics of Nigerian service personnel in conflict theaters at home, across Africa and beyond. Olamijo Alawakala, a member of the House of Representatives representing Ogbomoso Federal Constituency, has emerged as the chairman of the Young Parliamentarians Forum YPF of the 10th National Assembly. Mr. Alawakala, who is the son of the late Oyo State Governor Adebayo Alawakala, was declared the chairman of the forum yesterday at the National Assembly complex. The legislator was nominated unopposed by members of the YPF. He succeeds Kabir Tukuda, a lawmaker from Sokoto State who served as the chairman of the forum in the 9th Assembly. And the Nigerian Navy ship NNS Delta has handed over impounded vessels to the officials of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission EFCC for suspected oil theft. The arrested vessels TUG MV Steph 1 and Badge Simi, laden with products suspected to be stolen automotive gasoline oil AGO, were handed over to the anti-graft agency today at the NNS Delta jetty. Samuel Musa, base operations officer of NNS Delta, released the vessels to the EFCC on behalf of the commander, NNS Delta, Chindo Yahaya. Addressing journalists, Mr. Yaya, Naval Commodore, said that Bad Simi was impounded with about 120,000 liters of product suspected to be AGO at Waxing Jetty, Ejaba, on the MPA Expressway in Warri South. In business and economy, Wema Bank says it is poised to commit more funds to promoting agriculture and businesses owned and run by female entrepreneurs following the $50 million credit facility it has signed with the ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development. The deal was sealed on Monday, November 20, 2023 in Lomé, Togo. The $50 million credit facility assigned to Wema Bank aligns with EBID's strategy of impacting SMEs across the sub-region via partnership with banks and reputable financial institutions that have a significant reach within the sub-region. And that's the news summary at 6 here on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. I am Chika Ago. Good evening.
This is Radio Now News.